Hi and welcome back to a new video. As I'm sure you're all aware, CES in Vegas has just ended, and like many of my tech colleagues, I have been following closely. Shout out to all of those that were there and allowed me to look at all of the new innovations that have come out at CES, and I'm really thankful to you because that way I didn't need to go there and I can still tell you about my opinion of what's going on. I have seen a lot of really cool innovation, but I've also seen a worrying trend over the past couple of CEs as well as the tech world in general that is just once more showing up at this CES in particular that I want to talk about. Let's start with the positives though, because there's a couple of things I'm genuinely very excited for that I've seen in the CES videos and I want to get into it. First and foremost, we are seeing more folds. Now, that is a general, mostly phone trend we've been seeing in the past couple of years already. Apple, as we all know, is probably working on their fold to come out this September, but we've seen some cool new tech by other companies here as well. Motorola bringing out their Razr, which is a new foldable phone from them. Samsung delivering the Tri-Fold, which has one more fold than the regular fold, but because there's two fold, it now adds up to 3 screens, which means it's a Tri-Fold. A little bit confusing name there on their end, as well as, of course, something I think most of you have seen, the Lenovo Legion Rollable, which is a laptop that allows you to actually expand the screen on a button touch. The way it works is you open your laptop as usual. It comes in your regular laptop dimensions, whether that's a 14 or a 16 incher, I'm not capable to say, but once you press the button, the screen does roll out either in the horizontal or in the vertical, which is of course really interesting when it comes to having more space to work on or even game on. Like many other people, I have been using a portable little monitor like one of these that I use for testing my builds as well. They're pretty cheap. They can come up around $100 if you get them on sale, sometimes even less, like 80, 90 bucks, and they work quite well. Now, of course, it's extra weight. You have to carry it around. It's a little bit annoying when it comes to the cables, but it is a fully functioning monitor. So the question for me is, A, how much more expensive will something like a laptop with rollable screens be in comparison to something like that? And of course, how does it work with the resolution as well? The process of rolling it out is very slow, and as well, of course, the damage on the folded parts, we know from the fold phones that you can often see the creases. So I'm a little bit curious on how that's going to be working with the rolled parts of that screen as well. Is it going to show up? How long does it take to show up? In what way does it show up? Those are all questions I'm sure we will get answered once it finally reaches the public market. Additionally to more fold phones, we've been seeing a lot more glasses. Now, of course, we all know Meta glasses, which are the glasses you can film, record, and do a lot of other stuff with, and other companies want a little bit of a piece of that cake. For example, Asus RG has shown up with basically a teaser at CES saying they're gonna make glasses for gamers, which I'm really curious, like, do they envision us wearing these while also sitting on our computer? That would be a really interesting question to have answered in the future. But in the meantime, companies like MemoMind as well as Rocket are looking towards making those glasses more normal looking, more passable within society, not as chunky, not as electronic as some of the previous glasses have looked. Now, I will say on the side of MemoMind, I think it's really cool that they're showing this much different options you can get with the glasses. So different frames, different glasses, different nose coverages, as well as it's not an ear band, but you know what I'm saying. That is definitely something that's really interesting, but of course they don't have a camera built in, which I actually very much prefer, because I think you've all seen those videos before where something is filmed with Meta glasses and the person that is shown in the video is very much not aware that they're being filmed right now. I have been thinking about this a little bit in the past days, and I almost feel like we should introduce something like Japan has for photo shutters, which of course were made because of upskirting, which is an entirely different issue. But I feel like if you're recording with Meta glasses, there should be like a green light or something, or generally with smart glasses, just to make sure people are aware that you're filming them. And while we're at it, add that back to the phones as well. I think we are at a time in society, just in general, where phones are whipped out really fast, everything is filmed, and it's almost a little bit frightening to know that people could be filming you at any moment in time and you'd probably not be aware of it at all. I think we should step back a little bit from that, and I would really enjoy if that is something we would see, but I fear it's one of those things that won't come without regulation from above. Now, I will say I really enjoy that these glasses are looking sleeker, nicer. From a tech standpoint, they're very impressive, and particularly ones like the Memo Mind, I think are really cool for stuff like speaking in public and you don't want to use a teleprompter. You can't because they're really expensive. Or just having notes that you take while you're doing tasks with different actions, that you can follow those without having to look into a journal or something like that. They're just always in your field of view. I can definitely see a lot of use cases. I personally, unfortunately, never got to try these IRL. I only wore Meta glasses for a short amount of time to test the functions within a store, but I'd be curious on a long time test of one of these, so let me know if that's something you're interested in. Additionally to that, we are seeing more versions of chargers and screens than I am willing to count in this video. There's a lot of gimmicks with chargers that have built-in speakers and stands and different angles, as well as monitors that are bigger, brighter, better, 2D, 3D, whatever. It's all out there. It's not necessarily something I care about too much, but it is cool, so I think it did deserve a mention here in this video. Lastly, on the positive end, there are a few little things that I found on my research that I thought were really cool. Starting us off with the GameSir, which is basically a controller you can snap any display capable device into. Whether that is a phone, a tablet, a Switch, you can all just jam it in there. It connects to the device. Then you can use different modules to use on that controller, which comes with a GameCube module, which of course, as you know, you're opening everything for me at that point. I love the GameCube controller, so I was really excited to see that. Also, just a piece of tech that's not locked to a specific device is always going to be something I get really excited about. So that was a really cool thing that I saw. Another thing is one of those chargers that I just mentioned. It's called Clicks, and it's a MagSafe charger that comes with a little BlackBerry-like keyboard. Now, do you need it? Probably not, but I am really excited about haptic buttons just in general. I think there's too much touchscreens on everything, and as somebody that actually admits to swiping on their phone rather than often typing on the phone keyboard, I just really like typing without having to look at my phone. It makes my life a lot easier without needing to have all of my attention on that when I'm answering emails or texting back friends. Now, I think that's a really cool little gadget. Is it worth the 80-90 bucks that it costs? Probably not, but I am considering getting it just because I think it's really cool for stuff like writing social media blurbs that you need to do when you post things, descriptions, replies on comments on YouTube, emails, all of that stuff. I use my phone a lot for work, of course, and I think that would make my life a little bit easier than needing to always look at the phone to type. So I thought that was just really cool, but of course it does make your phone a lot chunkier. Last but not least, you guys know I love birds, and I do want to shout out Bird Buddy. Now, this is not a new device. We know Bird Buddy already. It's on the market. You can buy it right now, but they have a new version, which is just all in all a little bit sleeker, a little bit better. It's a device that lets you set up a feeding place for birds, and then comes with a built-in camera that tells you when birds are visiting at your new front door, as well as which bird it is. I just think that's really neat. That's one of the uses for AI I'm definitely in favor of, because I think it's really cool and it's also educational in a way. Of course, that all relies on the training data of that LLM, but since it is a very limited set of things it needs to know, it is highly likely correct because it only needs to deal with birds and not all of the animal kingdom, so that is really cool. Having covered all of the things that I love, let's talk about the things that really worry me. Because of course, CES once more was littered with AI, androids, and robotics, and even more so than in the past years, we are seeing these become more and more likely to actually enter society. Well, in the past, it was a fever dream to be able to have your own android that does your chores at home. It is starting to become a reality that could actually exist with some of the devices we've been seeing here. And don't confuse me for a hater. I am skeptic of LLMs in general, but if there's something I want the robots to cover, it's definitely stuff like chores, so I can do more of the creative things like reading, writing, and creating, not the other way around. So I'm very much in favor of seeing this shift. On the other hand, with that becoming more likely, we're looking at robots like Atlas from Boston Dynamics, which I think it's very hard to look at the presentation they gave and not think about the use case of police or military with all the specs that they have called out. The different temperature ranges it's able to perform in, as well as different weather conditions, definitely make me think about more operations like military and less operations like factory work, where that really wouldn't be an issue at all. So that is something I'm looking towards a little bit with concern, and I think you should do too, because that could really change all of our military and justice branches going forward in the next couple of decades. Now, I'm not saying this happens next year, but it is a trend we need to keep an eye on. The other change I'm really not a fan of is the overall overwhelming presence of LLM AI in our everyday life. Now, I know people really like this from devices like the Echo with Alexa or Siri now becoming more and more LLM capable, AI capable, and of course, those companies are catching on. You now have a lot of AI companions to choose from, whether we're talking about the Razer Hologram, the Lepro Ami, the Luna, or the Intel AI companion. All of these are designed to just be wherever you are or whenever you're working, to just sit on your desk and add a little bit of companionship, add a little bit of less loneliness, as well as advice, of course. Now, to me, this leads to a situation where it's much more likely for you to consult an LLM rather than talking to your friends who might be knowledgeable or using your own brain to look things up. I think that in itself is a worrying thing, and studies do show that users who use that a lot are actually declining in brain performance. So I would urge you to be very conscious about your use case of these tech devices. I think there is something to be said about people wanting to date their LLMs or be friends with their LLMs over real life social connections, and I think that is something that's not spoken about enough. Now, if that wasn't scary enough for you already, we are entering a world where LLMs are used to raise children. And that is something where I need to shine a light on and talk about, just to make you a little bit more aware of it, because I think it's really frightening. Children desperately need emotional connection. They need human interaction to grow, to learn, to improve, to build out all of the function that they need to build out while still growing and while still being in that developmental phase. Companies like Allobot are now giving you an AI device that is supposed to be the best friend of your child, that goes with it from the very earliest stages of childhood to the teenager ages. And I think that's a very scary thing. I don't want AI to raise my children or any children for what it's worth. I don't think that is something that has been tested from an ethical or socioeconomical standpoint, and I think it's really worrying that these devices are out there and people are actually considering buying them for their own children, because it makes life easier if you don't actually need to raise your own children. As per usual, I'm of course a little bit critical of LLM usage in everyday life, because studies have once again shown more and more of that actually impacting us in negative ways, and I personally would much rather have more time with my friends and then have the LLM do the annoying parts of my work, rather than vice versa, the LLM covering my friendship and me still having to do more work. So let me know how you feel about this. If there was anything at CES that you saw that was really exciting that I maybe haven't talked about, or maybe have talked about, and why you're excited for it. If you liked this video, make sure you leave a like and a sub below, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!